we should be clear about what happened though, right? Which is that there is this huge Unite the Right rally, which was this very well planned and well organized event that
for them
that was put on by neo-Nazis, white supremacists, the alt-right, whatever the fuck you want to call them.
Some Proud Boys, I think a few 3%ers, those militia types.
Whatever. I mean, this was, like I said, this was unambiguously an open, organized display of fascism on the streets of America. And there were counter-protesters, brave people who wanted to stand up against that and didn't, wanted to have some kind of, pushback against this. And here's the thing. It turned violent, and a woman was killed when, I'm sure as you all know, one of these assholes just drove a car into a crowd full of people. Haider.
A fucking central casting fail-son.
Yeah, Matt.
A guy who hits every fucking check mark on who these assholes are. Fucking washed out of the army, couldn't hack boot camp, which now in the 21st century is basically like family double dare. They went back home to live with his mom, who he beat up because she tried to stop him from gaming all the time. Like, these guys always, the response when you make these jokes is, wow, very original. It's like, it's impossible to not talk about this because that's what you fucking are. You are people whose brains have been broken by living in your parents' fucking basement and not getting laid and feeling like you should be in charge of the world and, never getting blown by what the hell, Tomb Raider?
Yeah, there was this story somewhere that said that guy was widely known as the Nazi of his high school. It's like, how long does it take people to figure this shit out?
They should get rid of that position on JV football teams.
Honestly.
Yeah.
It's been long enough.
But no, yeah, he was like, if you were going to write a Muad'Dib character for just worthless lumps of Nazi shit who embody every characteristic of their movement, it would be this guy. He is the chosen one in every way.
Most likely to turn up at a Nazi rally and murder someone.
And here's the thing, if you saw these images of their torchlit parade or any of these assholes in the streets when any of the fighting was happening, which included, among other things, like a gang of people just beating someone with pipes in a parking garage, it's easy to take notice, or the guy who killed this woman. It's easy to take notice of how sort of buffoonish and dorky and just dumb looking all these people are. But I don't think that necessarily precludes how fucking dangerous and scary it is.
Yeah.
Fascism is stupid. It is ugly and idiotic in every way, and it sort of relies on that. And it's one necessarily doesn't have to preclude the other. And the thing that I think when we talk about the violence that occurred here, and we're going to talk about this idea about what both sides mean, or violence on both sides. I think we need to be very clear that organized demonstrations of fascism are people announcing their intention to do violence. It is violence. These people are saying, they were chanting in the streets, "The Jew will not replace us, and blood and soil." These people are announcing their intention to perform a genocide in their community in America. That is their goal. That is what they believe in. And that is what they will tell to anyone who will listen. And the more they do this shit, and the more organized and the more comfortable they feel marching in the streets, the closer they are to achieving that goal. So there, in my opinion, there is no such thing about violence on both sides. This rally was violence, and any violence that's done in retaliation or against these people is, in my opinion, completely justified.
Yeah, and the thing that we would sort of see before this, and I think everyone was kind of guilty about, most people were, of comparing these people to the Third Reich and going, well, these guys aren't anything like the NDSAP before they came to power. They're stupid and lazy and slovenly, and they failed at everything. And it's what do you think those guys were?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
They were all failed something or other, who had to drop out of cavalry school because they got addicted to morphine and they believed in magic.
Right.
That's not a preclusion to them doing some incredibly fucked up shit.
Yeah,
that we've
Heinrich
seen.
Himmler was a failed chicken farmer, which will never happen because these are people going out in the street, intentionally being provocative, intentionally saying with all of the fucking air in their lungs that a huge segment of their fellow Americans don't deserve to live. That is going to bring people out in response. It is going to. So you cannot, your smug fucking suggestion that everyone ignore them. Okay, fine, that's nice. Congratulations that you have that idea. It's not going to happen.
Saying, this man had a flamethrower at the event. That is a chemical weapon.
He didn't even have a flamethrower. He rigged a fucking new weapon out of a spray paint can and a lighter. That shit is awesome.
Yeah, by the way, flamethrower. That's hilarious. And mace. What the fuck is with these people? They always talk about they're using mace against us. These assholes came armed to the teeth with real fucking guns. I love these people. Like, they have some conception where every conceivable weapon other than a gun is some sort of horrible thing that's beyond the pale.
This is the furthest reactionaries use the norms of liberalism. To break them, they fall back on them to defend themselves by saying, "Well, that's not right. You're not supposed to bring flamethrowers to a protest."
Yeah,
we're nonviolent. We're being nonviolent. Yeah, we talk a lot of shit, but we're nonviolent.
And Matt, this is something you've spoken on before. I think it's absolutely important. The way these people always fall back on this idea of free speech. That's their little totem, because they don't quite yet have the confidence to say ethno-state genocide is what we actually believe in. So they say we're standing up for free speech.
Yeah, well, Trilburn pointed out that Matthew Heimbach dickhead was standing in front of the courthouse in Virginia the other day protesting some horrible treatment of his asshole friends or something. And he was talking about how it was so unfair that they didn't get any help from the police. They had their permits while wearing a shirt featuring the leader of the Romanian Iron Guard, who in 1941 perpetrated a fucking pogrom against the Jewish population of Budapest that involved hanging them on hooks in a fucking slaughterhouse.
I mean, the thing is, he
doesn't give a shit about fucking free speech.
The concept of free speech, the way we talk about it, is so abstract. Like, yeah, you have free speech if you're a dead corpse that a Nazi just killed. So what? You know, that abstraction doesn't mean shit if you are actually under threat.
And this is where, you run up against, the limits of the liberal worldview, in that you have a group of people that, like I said, must be stated again, are dedicated to morally and philosophically to the idea and practice of genocide against races they regard as biologically inferior to them, will use every pillar of liberal culture and society to protect themselves until they have enough power to take it away from everyone else. They don't believe in free speech. They don't believe in fucking human rights. They don't believe in non-violence. And the way fucking people fall for this over and over again is stunning.
I'm kind of worried that AutoZone has fired Nazi Jeff. I'm not sure a private company should have this much power.
People who don't give a shit when people get fired for participating in BDS marches or any shit like that.
Union drives.
Yep. I do want to say one thing about the sort of broad reactionary movement that we kind of talked about before we even recorded our episode yesterday. And that is, I think that this is going to be a turning point, because it's a turning point that you see in all reactionary groups, be they, fucking Jabhat al-Nusra or the Taliban or this. And that is, people start out, they get attracted to the big names, the Jack Priloseks, the moderate rebels, and it's very exciting and transgressive for them.
The alt-light people, the media stars,
Yeah.
the periscopers, the streamers.
Right, before all the major infighting started. Then the infighting started, and you see there's someone more extreme, and it's, the NPI people or the fucking, anything to the right of those guys. And hey, shit, you know what? If you're a male from a dominant group who feels like time has passed him up, and if you lived 500 years ago, you wouldn't be sad and dislocated and a fucking loser. Like anyone who joins,
you would have been issued a girlfriend. Don't forget that.
You're not going to drift towards the moderate. You're going to go even farther. If you feel like you're in a war all the time because you hate your life, yeah, moderates don't last in war. So these people drifted further to the right. But now that it's real, I think this is going to be the part where some people get off the train, because they didn't really imagine they would have to answer this much. A big thing about being transgressive in that reactionary sense is the very middle class, and this is the middle classness of this movement that informs it, the very middle class sentiment that you can snap back to safety anytime you want.
Yeah.
And it's
that none of this shit has consequences, that it's just lows.
Yeah. Oh, for the lulls, it's just bants, doing the bants.
Well, it's also a good counterpoint when you brought up that this is a middle class movement and also an upper class movement. That a lot of opportunists say that on the center say that this is the fault of Bernie Sanders, who said before the election we should think about the material conditions of these people,
economic anxiety.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like, well, no, it's all racist, but the people who have the means, the wherewithal to drive from Ohio or Oregon or Maine to Virginia in order to go to a weekend Nazi rally are not out of work coal miners.
Yeah, I mean, Frank Rich said, no more hillbilly elegies after this, which, hey, fuck that book. But, you think those were fucking hillbillies, you dumb piece of shit?
Dude,
all those people grew up in subdivisions.
Richard Spencer has a master's degree.
Yeah.
We're not talking about hillbillies here.
You know what hillbillies were there? Yeah. Redneck revolt.
But go back to the point. I mean, this to echo what T said on our show a few weeks ago, to sort of if you see to respond to the charge that the alt left, quote unquote, is the one who wants to make common cause with racists or make a separate peace with fascism or whatever, or doesn't stand for against racism. Don't even respond to it. I know it's galling, but you have to understand what these people are doing, which is they have nothing. They have nothing. So just keep talking.
Well, they have nothing in terms of an argument or a coherent worldview or a useful praxis. But what they do have is they are speaking on behalf of a hegemonic liberalism that is going to get us all fucking killed.
It's got a lot of money.
I agree, don't talk to them, but because they're distraction from the real fucking problem, which is that fascism arises because of the collapse of institutional legitimacy of liberal institutions. And that's how we got fucking Trump. It's how we're going to get what's coming next after him that's going to be even worse. Because if you think there's not going to be more ecological and economic catastrophes in the future that liberalism is wholly unsuited to fucking deal with, and that failure is not going to lead to fascism filling that fucking hole, you got another thing coming. And that's what these guys are. These guys who marched in Charlottesville, these are the people who are aware of the unspoken premise of this sort of zombie neoliberalism we're living in, which is that we're coming at a point where there's going to be ecological catastrophe, and it's going to either require mass redistribution of the ill-gotten gains of the first world or genocide. And these are the first people who have basically said, well, if that's the choice, I choose genocide. And they're getting everybody else ready intellectually and emotionally for why that's going to be okay when it happens. Why they're not really people. When we're putting all of this money into more fucking walls and drones and bombs and guns to keep them away, and so that we can watch them die with clear consciences, it's going to be because we've been loaded with the ideology that these guys are now starting to express publicly. On the other side of them, you have people who are saying in full fucking voice, no, we have the resources to save everybody, to give everybody a fucking decent and worthwhile existence. And that is what we want. And that is the fucking real difference between these two. So you can tell that to the next asshole who tells you that they're actually two sides of the same coin.
Yeah.
You know what's going to happen?
Yes, yeah.
You know what's going to happen is that the majority of people, the majority of Americans who don't vote, who don't participate in the political process, when they start to look at this, they're going to see the Nazis, the apocalyptic destroyers of the world on one side, and on the other, they're going to see the DSA, Black Lives Matter. They're going to see Antifa. And what they're not going to see is they're not going to see Hillary Clinton out there. They're not going to see Center for American Progress or Share Blue or whatever the fuck those organizations are. Brookings.
Peter Beinart,
all the
whatever.
fucking think tanks that are dedicated to preserving stability and order in the liberal tradition. They're not out there fighting that fight. It's the left that's fighting that fight. And the apolitical masses, they're starting to see that now.
Yeah, we once and for all, we're going to say everyone on the left is equal underneath us.
Right.
Well, I mean, it was the refrain during the UK election, like the Corbyn Labour Party, the slogan "We are many, they are few." Mm-hmm. That was true then. it's abso-fucking-lutely true about us and these alt-right fucking chuds. They're like I said, it's deadly fucking serious what's going on right now. But there are more of us than them by a fucking long shot. And like I said, through solidarity and like I said, like the acts of bravery that we've seen coming out of Charlottesville, I think these fuckers are not long for this world. And I don't mean that in a violent sense. I mean it like they're going away.
Wink.
They're going back to the They're going back to.
They're going back to gaming.
They're going back to fucking hiding like the fucking snakes that they are.
Oh, no, they're getting kicked out of gaming too.
Yeah, no, there's no refuge anymore. No more gaming.
You're going to Mahjong.
Yeah. All right. I mean, I think that's as good a place as any to wrap it up.